Welcome to a mini-series on bunker play in 4 parts. Now here I'm standing in the practice bunker on the Marcus practice ground at Woburn. We prepare this course, practice ground once a year for the Senior Masters, the Travis Perkins Senior Masters, where the cream of senior golfers in Europe come and play the Duke's course. But the Marcus practice ground has ideal practice turf, this synthetic green and a bunker. Now, I learned something about bunkers the other day, not to do with technique, but about actually raking a bunker. There's nothing more frustrating, is there, when a ball goes under the lip and plugs, or it goes in through the grass but doesn't run to the bottom of the bunker. Even more annoying is to have a shot in the middle of the bunker and you hit a flyer because there's no sand. Now, I've been a golf pro since 1973, and I've always been taught to enter a bunker at the low point, and that once you've played your shot, to rake your footprints and leave it as best you can. Well, we have an incredibly good greenkeeper at Woburn called John Clark, and John Clark explained to us a little experiment they did. The greenkeepers made sure that a bunker was perfectly raked, and they checked the depth right across the bunker, so there was constancy of sand depth. And after a busy day, probably 50, 60 golfers had walked into that bunker and done what I'd done, a mistake. So if my footprints were here, I would diligently rake and rake backwards. Now, can you imagine 25 people doing that in the day? What happens is all your good sand gets dragged up the face. There's no sand at the bottom of the bunker. You've got fluffy sand under the lip. It's the last scenario that you want. So it's important that when you rake in a bunker, that you actually send the sand away from you as much as possible and keep the good sand in the middle of the bunker. There's nothing more frustrating than going to a bunker and having a hard pan lie or a poached egg. So it's a little tip that I picked up fairly recently. I'd never understood that it's important to rake away from yourself as you come out of the sand, as well as raking towards you. Our greenkeepers, they rake the bottom of the sand, and then they do a scalloped edge, and they make sure that the sand is a constant depth at the start of the day. So if we do our job and rake properly and rake away from us, then the playing surface gets to be better for everybody concerned. That said, let's move on to part 2 and do some work on hitting shots from the sand.